Now, the key question. All this might sound interesting for those of you who have interest in all this, but does this work? Does this work under real-life conditions? Well, according to our observation, it works under real-life conditions. But let me tell you, how can we assess that it works? And let me also tell you that part of these results have already been presented at the Autism One conference in 2021. Why at the Autism One conference? Because it is very well assessed that there is a link between autism, onset and development, and electromagnetic fields. As a matter of fact, since 2013, so we're talking almost 10 years ago, well, 9 years ago, we're close to 2022, it was hypothesized a pathophysiological link between autism and electromagnetic fields. If you're interested in this, I recommend you go and take a look at my talk at Autism One that was given a few weeks ago. But in order for us to assess whether the Praesidium was working or not with some objective measures, we decided to look at the heart rate variability. Why? Because electromagnetic fields, they do affect the working of our heart, they do affect the working of our vagus nerve, they do affect the working of our central and peripheral nervous system. The heart rate variability is the physiological phenomenon of variation in time interval between heartbeats. And when it is low, it is a bad sign, because low HRV is a predictor of mortality for all causes, from congestive heart failure to diabetic neuropathy, post-cardiac transplant depression, susceptibility to sudden infant death syndrome, poor survival in premature babies, fatigue severity in chronic fatigue syndrome. So you see, completely different conditions affecting both newborns and old people. Nevertheless, if HRV is low, is a bad sign because it is a predictor of mortality. And HRV also decreases under conditions of acute time pressure, emotional strain, elevated anxiety state. Conversely, high HRV reflects increased parasympathetic activity, that is vagus or vagal activity, and low HRV reflects increased sympathetic activity. So we decided to measure heart rate variability that today can be measured with portable devices, you know, like these things that you can, kind of a smartwatch. I think you can measure it with the Apple Watch. You can measure with some rings. So you can easily measure with wearable devices heart rate variability and see whether the EMFs that surround you affect it, and also see whether this product of ours work or not. It had been known for many, many years that EMFs, they are involved in cardiac arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation and other form of altered rhythm of the heart. And also, again, almost 10 years ago, it was published that radiation from wireless technology affects the blood, the heart, the autonomic nervous system, that is the vagus nerve and the vagal signaling. But in our specific case, we were talking about heart rate variability, not arrhythmia or other heart diseases. So we're talking about physiological conditions, normal conditions. And it is known that workers exposed to medium frequency EMFs, they have changes in heart rate variability. And this is not the only article. For example, this article coming from Turkey studied the effects of the duration of mobile phone use on heart rate variability in healthy subjects. And also quite interesting is that the cellular phone irradiation of the head, because usually you keep your phone next to your head, affect the HRV depending on inspiration-expiration ratio. And this leads to the latest article that I published, the one I showed you. If you Google my name on Google Scholar, application of ultrasonography to neuro COVID-19, because we demonstrated that the brain expands and contracts every time we breathe. So the brain is not, doesn't sit still and contracts. And contracts every time we breathe. We demonstrated this taking measurements in centimeters, how it expands and contracts. Now, in the case of neuro-COVID-19, this is very important for some types of treatment, for the application of the Ruggiero-Klinger protocol and things that are not directly related to EMFs. But I wanted to give you this information because it also applies to exposure to EMFs, in particular to cell phone irradiation, as this article published in 2018 demonstrates. So it's something to take into account. So what did we observe? Essentially, we asked subjects who were using the Praesidium to wear these wearable devices to monitor HRV, in particular during their sleep that occurred in these cases at night. Why? Because if it is well assessed that EMFs, they affect the heart and the heart rate variability, this is even more true if we're talking about sleep. And I think it is a common knowledge that EMFs, they do affect sleep. That's why they tell you not to keep your cell phone on your nightstand next to your head while you're sleeping, and try to place everything that is somehow producing EMFs far away from you when you sleep. And also, all the theories of how to orient your bed according to the Earth geomagnetic field. I mean, all these things are true. And so during sleep is where you see the most effects. So essentially here, these subjects, these are two different subjects. They are taken just as examples. And now we are collecting hundreds of observations. They're all consistent because before the administration, you have a certain value that is different from person to person. This subject has a value of 2942. This subject has a value of 45 with the same wearable device. If you have to compare different devices, then you have to convert somehow. But in this case, the wearable device was the same. So different starting point, different HRV. But in both cases, you see that after the first week, the HRV during the night goes up and it keeps on going up. How long does it take to observe the effects? Sometimes just 1 week, if you measure these things. Sometimes it might take 2-3 weeks, but definitely within the first month, you observe these objective changes. So again, we are not talking about delusional thought or wishful thinking. We're talking about objective measures that, by the way, also these have been published. So they have gone through the sieve of peer review. So we're talking about objective measures that demonstrate how this approach increases HRV, in particular during the night, but also during the day if you take care of measuring under reproducible conditions. And then if you want to have testimonials, just go to the webpage of the product of Praesidium Life, and you can look at a number of testimonials. They're all consistent, and these are true testimonials. So we didn't write these testimonials ourselves, absolutely not. These are true, and you can get in touch with these people if you like. So you can go and read for yourself. And if you want to know more about the Praesidium, if you want to know more about the science, the invention, how does it work, and hypersensitivity to EMFs and so on, you can go again to the website and you find a lot of material. And then, of course, I'm available. And since now I am towards the end of this presentation, I'm available for any question.